sure is quiet this evening, and I think the reason why it's quiet this evening is Nathaniel told me that you guys had to do like swimmers training or rescue or something like that. So you guys are probably out swimming and trying to rescue one another, and you look very tired and sleepy today. And then for our younger ones, you guys are out doing what? You guys are playing like kickball or something? Something like that?
Gaga.
Okay.
Gaga.
Oh, all right.
They do Gaga.
Gaga. I don't know what that is.
It's like
I know Lady Gaga. And then for the rest of you, I don't know what your problem is. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, I think tonight is a tough night. Whenever I speak, I like to do like a little temperature gauge to see what the feel is in the room and just start this dialogue and discussion, okay? So I've got a couple of questions before we begin, just so I know who I'm talking to. How many of you, this is your first time at Ganderbrook, whether it be a counselor or a visitor? Okay, very good, very good. Put your hands down. How many of you have been to Ganderbrook twice now? Twice, okay, very good. How many of you have just been, last year was your first year? Anybody here, just last year was their first year? Okay, so the rest of you, yeah, thank you. If you've been to Ganderbrook over 3 years, raise your hand. Wow, over 5 years? Okay, all right, very good. So what I have, as I look across the auditorium tonight, are some newbies in the house, and then some who have been a part of Ganderbrook for many years. This is my second year at Ganderbrook. My name is Jason. I want to thank Nathaniel for that wonderful, kind, awesome introduction. Last year was my first year at Ganderbrook, and actually my first time in the state of Maine. I've never been to Maine before, and I was excited to be here. Had a wonderful time last year, and I got to meet some really cool people. You being one of them. You were here last year. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm a preacher right now in Savannah, Georgia. Anybody been in Savannah, Georgia? Very good. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful city. And I just recently accepted a job as a Bible professor at Harding University. Any Harding folk in the house? Make some noise for it, yeah! The best university in the world, amen! Yeah. Anybody else from any other university besides Harding? Which, where are you from? OVU? Never heard of it. Next time, just others? Oklahoma Christian? Never heard of it? Anybody else? Yes? Lipscomb? Definitely never heard of Lipscomb. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for coming out and being a part of this amazing camp. It takes a lot to be able to give up your summer where you could be doing something else, but you decide to come here and to volunteer your time to serve young people. That is awesome. So we appreciate your presence tonight, college students. No matter what college you're from, we're thankful and thrilled and happy that you're here with us. For the churches represented tonight, I know there are churches from Massachusetts to Vermont to New Hampshire to Maine, right? Is that it? Any other churches represented? Okay, so that's the group. So we want to thank you for being here and giving up your time to come out here and to be a part of this camp. This is really, really special. So what I wanted to talk about for our time tonight and for our instruction for the week is this idea of never quitting, okay? I've been a professional quitter for most of my life. Can you guys empathize with that? Any professional quitters? No, it's just me? Very good? Okay, very good. If you're a professional quitter in life, this message will probably resonate with you. If you're the type that doesn't quit and you're able to work through hardships and difficulties, well, maybe you need to be teaching the class, okay? So this class is for people who have thought at one point in time in life that they needed to quit, okay? So right now, if you didn't know, there is something very, very interesting happening amongst our fellowship, the Churches of Christ, okay? And what's really interesting about what's happening is right now, in this very moment, the Churches of Christ are going through a big season of transition, okay? Maybe you have felt it, maybe you haven't felt it, but I just want to paint the picture, okay? I am from California, spent time in Georgia. I preach now in Savannah. We're going to be moving to Arkansas, so I've been to many different places in the world. And I've been to many different churches of Christ, and what I've been seeing over the past really 5 to 7 years is a really big shift within our fellowship, okay? I was at Pepperdine University in Malibu, California, and I was at the lectures there. And some of the teachings that were taking place at the lectures were very, very different than some of the teachings that I heard at Harding University or Lipscomb University or what's that other place? OBU, yeah, that's not just a joke. OBU, much different messages. And we're going, man, what's happening? I'm sure many of us come from many different churches. How many of you are at churches where there are praise teams? Anybody here? Not one? Okay, one. Very good. Okay, how many of you are at churches that are below 100 members? That's almost... If you're at a church over 200 members, raise your hand. Over 300? Over 5? Over 1,000? Okay, but where do you go to church?
Hope City.
Okay, how big is that?
Thousands.
Okay, very thousands. All right.
We have multiple locations and they live stream.
Wow, very interesting. Okay, so I say that to say that we have a very interesting group of people, and there's some shifts and changing happening within our fellowship. There was an article, and I want to start with, actually, before we begin, I want to do something, okay? I want you guys to stand with me. Everybody stand up, because I know you're tired. Stand up. I want you to turn to your left and right, tell your neighbor, say, neighbor, participate. Participate. All right. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to read this verse. Wait, stand up. Stand. I need you guys' help. I want you to help me read this verse out loud together, okay? So, this verse, you guys read it with me. You ready? Fight the good fight of the faith. Take hold of the eternal life to which you were called when you made your good confession in the presence of many witnesses. 1 Timothy 6:12. Very good. You may have a seat. You may have a seat. Very good. That is going to be our theme verse for the week. And what we're going to be talking about is this idea of not quitting when things get difficult and when things get hard. Maybe you have seen this article. Anybody heard of the Christian Chronicle before? It's a Church of Christ publication, right? And it gives kind of background on different things that are going on within the church. About a year ago, an article came out, and the question was, can the churches of Christ be saved? Now, why would somebody ask this question? Can the churches of Christ be saved? Anybody have any ideas? Feel free to talk. I'm not just going to preach this evening, but I want to interact. Why would somebody ask this question, you think? Anybody? Why would somebody need to ask this question?
Because of the divisions within the church.
Because of the divisions within the church. Any other? Very good. Any other ideas on why someone might ask this question?
Numbers are shrinking.
Numbers are shrinking. Give them a round of applause. That's right. And we shouldn't clap over that, but I'm just saying that is good. Numbers are shrinking. So this article tells a story. There was a guy by the name of Bobby Ross who works for the Christian Chronicle who was traveling to West Texas. Anybody from Texas here tonight? Very good, very good. Anybody from Austin? Wait. The sun, the stars at night are big and bright.
Deep in the heart.
You see how Texans are? Texans are special. Texas, I'll tell you what. Anyway, almost as bad as California. So, okay. All right, so the article talks about this guy going to visit a church in West Texas. This church at one point was a really big church. It was a church of 400 people. They had a big, and that's big, right? That's big for Church of Christ numbers now, right? So the church had 400 people. It was in this rural community, this farming community, and over the course of time, the industry started to change. People started moving out from the area, and naturally what happens to the church? The numbers start to shrink, and it becomes a smaller and smaller group of people. So they're down now at this point to about 94, and then some more people end up leaving. And now on Sunday morning, when the church meets, they have about 10 to 15 people. Can anybody identify with this narrative just a little bit? All right? How many of you you have big church buildings that have big facilities, and then when you look at it, there's only a handful of people now at the church. That's a narrative narrative that we're very, very familiar with in the churches of Christ. And the story goes that this guy shows up, and there's a 104-year-old man who is walking up to the front to do the communion, right? He does the Lord's Supper, and he sits back down. He loves the church, and he always wants to keep it open. And the reporter asked this 104-year-old man, can the churches of Christ be saved? Can we pivot from being a small group of people to being a big, growing church movement again? And you know what this 104-year-old man said? I'm not quite sure. I don't know. And if I was to ask that question to you, what do you think? If you were going to answer honestly, you don't have to answer honestly. If I were to ask you, what do you think? Can this narrative change within the churches of Christ today? I don't know. I'm like that 104-year-old man. I'd probably answer the same way. I just don't know. Why? Culture has changed. People change. Things are different. So what do we do? I tell you what we do. We never quit. Okay? We never, ever quit. So the outline of this week is this. I'm going to ask several questions, and we're going to spend our time talking about it, and we're going to work through it. So today, what I want to talk about are some reasons, or for this week, there's some reasons why we quit. One of the reasons why we quit, I think, is because we are different. And you'll know what I'm talking about here in a moment when we get into the text. On Tuesday night, we're going to talk about why we quit. Well, we quit because we get hurt sometimes, right? What's another reason why we quit? We quit because we get tired. On Thursday, we quit because we get distracted. And then finally, on Friday, we quit sometimes because we get scared. So we're going to spend our time talking about that. And what I'm going to attempt to do is every evening tell you one of my very interesting quitting stories. Okay? So the first one begins tonight. I was a student many, many moons ago at the greatest university in the world, Harding University. I met my wife in Bible class at Harding University. I used to check her out during Bible class. I thought she was hot. Right? It is bad to say that because my mother-in-law is in the house here tonight, but she was. She was hot. She was amazing. And I used to check her out, and eventually we started dating, and we got married, and then something happened. We ended up having a kid. It was crazy. So Alayla is the product of our Alayla. Raise your hand. Alayla, that's her. So I had Alayla as a student. Well, I didn't have Alayla. My wife had Alayla when we were students at Harding University. Now, why was this difficult? Well, because I was 21 years old at the time. I was like a senior. I was taking like 21 credits, whatever the max is. I can't remember what it was now. And I had to take care of this new family. So we didn't have much money. As a matter of fact, our TV was up on milk crates. We didn't have furniture. It was really, really well. So one of the things that I had to do was I had to go get a job. So I went, like every good father would do, and I went out to go find a job to provide for my family. The place that I decided to work at was this restaurant, and if you're from Searcy or been around at Harding, you may have heard this restaurant before. The restaurant was called Dixie Cafe. Anybody heard of Dixie Cafe tonight? Okay, very good. Dixie Cafe was amazing. It really, really was. So I got this job at Dixie Cafe as a waiter. Anybody been a waiter before? Anybody ever served food in a restaurant? Isn't it a very difficult job? It's a tough job, okay? So as a student at Harding, what I would do is I would go to Dixie Cafe and I would have my pen and my piece of paper and I would go up to people and I say, "Welcome to Dixie Cafe, can I take your order?" And they would tell me what their order was, and they would say it so fast that I would forget what they would say, right? I'll take the number, and then they're from Arkansas, so sometimes you can't understand what I'm talking about, So, I'll take number 2 with the country fried, and I would say, okay, I don't know what you're talking about, but I would take down the notes, and I would go back to the kitchen, and I would say, hey, I need this. One day, I remember working at Dixie Cafe, and a couple of my friends on the football team, I played football at Harding, decided to show up. And they sat at this big table. They knew I was working that night. So I come out, and they say, "Hey, Jason!" And it's a whole big table of football players, right? And they make me go over there, and I start taking their order down. And when I go up to the counter or the table where they are, they start making fun of me. They just start ripping into me. It really bothered me. I was getting angry, and I was getting frustrated. But anyway, I take their order, and I go back to the kitchen, and I put it in. And then they give me this big... food is cooked, and then I have 2 round trays, right? You know those big ones that I don't know how waiters are able to carry, but they have 2 of them, right? And I had 2 of these big trays, and I'm walking to go take the food to the football players, right? As I'm walking, Dixie Cafe was one of the greasiest restaurants in all of Searcy, and I'm walking out with these 2 big trays, and I hit some kind of chicken grease. I don't know what kind of grease it was, but it was some grease, and my feet went out from under me, and they were kicking in the air, and I saw myself in slow motion, just right? I dropped all the trays and everything, and as I dropped them, soda spills, splashes, gravy is everywhere, right? And the football players are cracking up, and everybody in the restaurant is kind of looking around and pointing at me, and at that very moment, you know what I decided to do?
Quit.
I decided to quit. So I took off my apron, and I threw it down, and I walked out of the restaurant. And as I was walking out, you know what I did? Slipped again. Whoop! A second time. But I quit that day, and I vowed never ever work in a restaurant for the rest of my life. I quit. And the reason why I quit is because I felt a little different than the rest of my football team and players, because I was there working, and I had a family, and I had a kid, and they were able to enjoy themselves, and I was just so frustrated. So that day, I decided to quit. That's my first quitting story, and I've got many, many more for you as the week progresses. All right, so I want to read a verse found in Hebrews chapter 10 and verse number 25. Anybody have their Bibles tonight? You have your iPhones or your tablets. If you don't, we got the verses up on the screen. But I want to talk about this passage of Scripture real quick. And before we get there, I do have another question. Does anybody come from a big family? Anybody come from a big family? Okay. Put your hands down. Is anybody here a military brat? Raise your hand. Okay, put them down. Anybody missionary kids here tonight? Okay, very, very good. All right. So growing up, I was an Army brat that grew up in a very, very big family, and we lived in all different kind of places. So as an Army brat, we would move every 3 to 4 years, right? So in moving every 3 to 4 years, you know what the challenge is for an Army brat? You never really feel connected to people, am I right? You get to meet people for like a couple of years. I went to 3 different high schools, lived in a bunch of different places, and I never really felt connected to people. I never really felt like I had a community to be with and to be around apart from my family, and my family was very, very strange. Anybody come from strange families? Don't look at your mom or your brother and sister, but I'm just saying. It's hard from time to time growing up in a big, weird, strange family sometimes where you feel different. But there's some power in community. Hebrews chapter 10, verse number 25. Okay? And I'm not going to be too long because I see some tired eyes. I know that's sleepy. Okay, so we're going to work through it today. Hebrews chapter 10, 25. Somebody read that verse for me, please. Anybody? Stand up and read it, please.
And let us not neglect our meeting together, as some people do, but encourage and warn each other, especially now that the day of his coming back again is drawing near.
Very good. Thank you very much. Not giving up the meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. I need some crowd participation. Look at your neighbor and say participate. Okay. So, I need a couple of you to answer this question. You ready for this question? The question is this. I want you to give me a couple of pros to being a part of a church family. Okay? So, anybody, feel free to stand up, or if you don't feel like standing up, just raise your hand. Yes, what's a pro to being a part of a church family?
Having a support system.
Having a support system. Give them a round of applause. It's good, right? Having a support system. What's another good reason to be a part of a church family? Anyone? Yes?
You always have family, even if your biological family either lives far apart or are not a good family.
Very good. Give her a round of applause. We always got to say. Very good. Okay. Anybody on this side? Any good reason? What's a pro? Yes, sir. One of our ministers.
Spiritual encouragement.
Spiritual encouragement. Would you agree? Round of applause. Round of applause. Another reason. What's another good reason to be a part of a church family? Yes?
Accountability.
Accountability. round of applause. Give me 3 more reasons. 3 more reasons why it's good to be a part of a church family. Anybody else?
Unconditional love.
Unconditional love. Very good. Unconditional. Oh, yes, yes. Very good. Anything else from my college students or my teens in the house?
God tells us to.
What's that?
God tells us to.
Ooh, it's a commandment. Can we get a round of applause for that? Very good. One more reason. Why? It's a good reason. Where there's pro. What's another pro reason for being part of a church family? Yes, young man.
Not praying right.
Okay. Very good. Give him a round of applause. Very good. Anyone else want to add one other thing? One other thing. One other thing. One other thing. What's a good reason for being? What's a pro? What benefit do you get from being part of the church family? Yes.
They lift you up when you're down.
Very good. Round of applause. Give him a round of applause. All right. You ready for this question? This is a tough one. What are some cons to being part of a church family? Yes.
All of us are sinful.
All of us are sinful. Okay. All of
We're
us are
not
sinful.
very nice to be around.
Oh, okay. Any other cons to being a part of a church family? Yes.
Accountability.
Everybody's all up in my business all the time, right? Okay, very good. Any other cons to being a part of a church family? Let's keep it real. Let's be transparent tonight. What's another con? Yeah.
Families can be difficult and disagreements can occur.
Very good. Disagreements can occur and family members can be difficult. Yes.
Time.
Time. What do you mean by that?
It's going to take time to be part of that.
It takes time to be a part of the church family. Anything else? Another con? Yes.
Sometimes they know us too well. We'd rather
Sometimes
be
they
able
know
to
us
just
too
disappear.
Very good. Yes.
Like being rude.
Some people being rude? Yes, that's very good. That's true. That's true. Yes, that's true. Any other cons? Yes.
Sometimes you just don't want to see these people.
Sometimes you just don't want to see the people, right? And you notice all the preachers are kind of keeping quiet unless you know. You notice that? It was like, what are the pros? Preachers like this. But when it comes to cons, you know, the preachers are like, well, we're not going to put up. But come on, preachers. You know it's tough.
I don't have to be quiet. That's my grandson behind me.
Okay, very good, very good. Or elders, yes.
You have to deal with all those people that are having all these problems.
You have to minister, you have to deal with all the people that are having problems. So let's keep it real. There are pluses to being a part of a church family, and there are minuses to being part of the church family, right? And if we're not careful, those cons can outweigh the good of being part of the church family, am I right? The cons can become a really, really big deal. And as college students and as younger people, you got to be aware that when you come into the church, there are going to be cons. It's going to be really messy and really difficult. How many of you here tonight are like the only ones in your youth group at church? And that's hard, isn't it, right? It's hard to go. Right? When you're the only ones, or how many of you are the oldest one in your youth group at church, right? Yeah, that's difficult, right? So it's hard being a part of a church. And if you're a minister or you're an elder or you're a deacon, sometimes the issues that we have to deal with are very hard, right? And that's why this verse is so important for college students and young people, and even for people who've been in ministry for a very long time. It's really easy to quit the church. Really, really easy. All you have to do is leave and not show up anymore. Go figure. You might be able to do church by yourself in your own. Right? Just do church on your own. It's really easy to quit the church. But when we read this passage of Scripture is important because it's telling us not to quit coming together, because there is value in coming together as a church family. Big value. Not giving up. Do we know the context of Hebrews chapter 10, verse number 25? If you don't, let me paint the picture real quick. I'm almost done. The picture is this. Back in this time period, the author of the book of Hebrews was writing to an audience, a group of people that were once former Jews, right? And they were being persecuted, and they were having some hardships and some difficulties. And it would have been far easier for them to say, you know what, I'm done with this Christian thing. I'm done with this whole church movement thing. I'm going to go back to being a Jew, go live my old lifestyle. So the author says, look, don't give up coming together. Even though life is hard and life is difficult and life is messy, make sure you come together. You come together and you be a team and you work it out. You live in harmony and you live in unity. And the reason why this is so important is because there is value in being a part of the church. Never, never quit. So I put up some cons. These are my cons for why church is difficult sometimes. Number one, any introverts in the house tonight? Do you know what an introvert is? They usually sit like this. Yeah, I don't know how introverts are, but introverts are usually quiet, and when they get around a big, large group of people, what do? It gets difficult, right? If you're an introvert, it's hard being a part of the Church of Christ. Why? Tell me why. Anybody?
You have to participate.
You have to participate. Very good, right? You go to church, and what do church people say right when you show up? Hey, how you doing? How's today going? Good to see you. Glad you're here at the church today. Appreciate you being here. Hey, are you new? Where do you come from? Stand up. Tell us who you are. It's hard, right? If you're an introvert, to go to church sometimes. It becomes difficult. So that's one con. If you're an introvert, it's going to be hard to be a part of the church. What about this? I already asked this question. But if you're a part of the Church of Christ, what's happening right now that makes it really difficult is you feel a little different. How many of you go to churches where the average age is over 70 of the congregation? They're a little older. When you show up, there's a group of people that are a little bit older. How many of you have done this? You have a friend or a family member and you say, man, I really want to invite them to church, but I know if I invite them to church, they might not ever come back ever again if they come to my church. You ever felt that way before? Right? Let's keep it real tonight. I want to invite you to church, but if you come to my church, you might not want to be a part of that congregation, right? Why? Because we feel different, and it's difficult sometimes to invite people to our churches, right? Because we're embarrassed sometimes. How many of you have had a song leader that wasn't the greatest song leader? Yeah. No, if you go to that, right? So I remember when I was a preacher at a church in Sacramento, I used to love going out and inviting people to church. But I knew if I invited one of my friends to church, I had to sit them down and give them a pep talk before they came in. And what I would say is, hey, brother, let me tell you something real quick, okay? There's a sister in our church that she's going to hit a note, and it's going to be way over here, right? And I just want you to be aware before it happens that it's going to go down, okay? It's going down. So I remember it just like it was yesterday. There was a sister in the church. Her name was Sister Dorothy. Sister Dorothy was an amazing woman of God. But I knew whenever we sang that one song during the communion that she was going to hit a note that I had never heard in my life. And I can't remember what song it was. It was like, I can't remember the things that I love and hold dear to my heart. What song is that? I can't remember. Roll back. What is it? Remind me. Yes. And we used to sing that communion song. And I remember there was this one point in the song where I would look at Sister Dorothy and I knew the note was getting ready to come, right? And I had a visitor that day, and I said, it's about to go down when he was sitting next to me, right? And that note came out. And I was just so embarrassed, right? Thinking to myself, man, I don't feel like I'm a part. I feel different. I feel different. I'm embarrassed to invite people to my church. I feel like at times I don't fit in at the church. I feel different, and I feel strange for even being a part of this whole thing. Have you ever felt that way before? You don't have to raise your hand, but some of you probably know what I'm talking about. Where you just feel different. Like it doesn't fit. It's not for you. And it would be really, really easy to quit. There's a good story about quitting in the Bible, and then I'm gonna leave it with you. It's found in the book of Jonah, It's one of my favorite stories of Scripture where we see an individual getting ready to throw in the towel, and God had to remind him not to quit because there was a greater purpose at hand. Okay? So if you have your Bibles, again, we're going to look up at the screen. The story of Jonah, and the story, in my opinion, of a guy who was ready to quit. Okay? The word of the Lord came to Jonah, the son of Amittai, go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it, because its wickedness had come up before me. But Jonah did what? Ran away from the Lord and headed for Tarshish. He went down to Joppa, where he found a ship bound for that port. After paying the fare, he went aboard and sailed for Tarshish to flee from the Lord. How many of you have heard this story before? The story of Jonah. Okay. So, give me some context. You guys help me fill in the blanks. What is the story of Jonah about? God told Jonah to go do what? Preach, right? And he was preaching, and why didn't he want to go preach in that city? Yes?
Because he was scared.
He might have been scared. Any other reasons?
They were very murderous.
They were murderous. Were you going to say the same thing?
Yeah, I was going to say they were pretty nasty.
They were pretty nasty people. So what he does is yes, I saw another hand. No? Okay. So what he does is he runs from God, right? And he does what? Boards a ship, and as he's on the ship, what happens after that? Yes?
There was a big storm.
There was a big storm. And then what happened after that? Fill in the blank. Yes?
They realized that someone had done something wrong to one of the gods, or God.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't all believe it.
Very good.
But they all drew straws, and Jonah drew the shortest straw.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to be thrown overboard.
Thrown overboard. And then what happened when he was thrown overboard? Got eaten by a whale. Very good. A big fish. And after that, he died, and the story's over, right? No. Okay. Eventually, what happens? He got spit out. Okay? And then he started to do what? Started to do right. Okay, very good. So, very good. Very good. I'm very proud of you for this story. You guys know your story. Alright, so, do you guys know how far Nineveh was from Tarshish? Have you guys ever seen this map before? So whenever I used to read this story as a younger person, I would look at it and I would go, oh, Jonah got on the boat, he went a little ways away to get away from God. First of all, I don't know what you're doing trying to hide from God. Anybody trying to hide from God? You can't win in a hide and seek game with God. Okay, you can't. God's going to win every single time. But anyway, he decides to get on this boat and head to Tarshish, right? 2,500 miles away. That's about as far as Maine is to California. Possibly a little shorter, but about that distance. So he's running from the Lord because he doesn't want to go speak and spend time with this group of people that were different. These people were wicked people. And he says, I don't feel like fooling with these people. These people are different than I am. I'm much different than they are. I don't want to go there, and I don't want to be a part of that. A lot of times, we go to church, and the reason we go to church is because we're looking to get something out of it for ourselves, right? Right? But I would venture to say the reason why you're a part of a church, the reason why you're a part of a church is so that you can give of yourself to someone else. That's the reason why you're a part of a church. To give of yourself to someone else. So look at your neighbor and say, I'm happy you're here tonight. Very good. And do this one. Look at your neighbor and say, I'm here for you.
I'm here for you.
Yes, very good. And that's why you're here tonight. We're here for each other to build one another up and to encourage one another. That's why we're here gathered. That's why it's important to be a part of a church. So I love it. Oh, that's so sweet. I love it. So my encouragement to you as we kind of close out tonight is whenever you think about the church, and we looked at this article in the beginning that the church is shrinking, the church is crowded apart. Whenever you go to church and there's like 10 people there on a Sunday and you're having a hard time, and then that song leader pitches the song wrong, and then somebody messes up something, and then the communion goes all haywire and the PowerPoint doesn't work, and we get frustrated, and remember that we're there for each other. That's the whole reason why we're there, to encourage each other, right? To encourage each other. If we keep that first, I think we'll go well on our way. So here's a couple of things. Why did Jonah run? I think Jonah ran because the task was too difficult. When we look at our local churches, we have a job to do. Our job is to serve our local communities and go spread the gospel. That's a hard task to do. That's difficult. That's hard. And we look at that and we go, man, sometimes I don't feel like doing that. I just want to go to church, take my communion, hear a good message, sing some good songs, and then go home, right? But remember, we have a task. We have a job at church, and that is to seek and to save the lost, to spread the word, and that's hard. Why did Jonah run? The task involved people he didn't like. Church fights are the worst sometimes. Anybody been in a good church fight? No, I hope not. I hope not. But anybody seen some good church fights? Right? I'm going to tell you my church fights. Okay? This is the first one. And then, I said I was going to be done, but I'll be done after this. So I graduated from Harding University, the best university in all of the nation. Okay? Harding is a magical place. Harding is a magical place because everybody is super, spiritual. I remember going to Harding, and I would walk from the cafeteria to the Gaines, and there would be pop-up devotionals just happening all over the place. People would just start busting out singing Devo songs. Harding was a magical place, and when I was at Harding, I said, man, I'm going to be a preacher. This is amazing, right? I said, the church is wonderful. Ministry, this is the life, right? So I graduated from Harding, and I go, man, I can't wait to become a preacher because every day in ministry is going to be like at Harding. I thought so. I moved to California, and I take on my first ministry job. And I remember, I knew this church was a problem. And the reason why I knew it was a problem is because my very first Sunday, I walk into my new office, and there's a men's business meeting happening in my office. And as I walk in, they want to call me in and talk to me. So I go into the office, the other men are there, and they get ready to close the door, and another brother puts his foot in the door jamb. And he says, I'm coming into the meeting too. And the brothers inside the room said, you weren't invited to come to the meeting. This is for the hiring committee only. And the brother said, oh no, you don't talk to me like that. I'm a man within this church. I'm coming in anyway. And remember, this is my first day on the job at church, right? The other guy pushed him outside of the door. Just pushed him. And I said, it's about to go down. That's what I think in my head. The brother threw a punch. Hit him right in the mouth, right? And they started tussling. This was my very first day on the job as a preacher within the churches of Christ. Your guys' church, okay? No, just kidding. I tell that story to say that life sometimes is crazy. People are difficult and messy and hard. Church fights and conflicts are difficult to go through. They're hard to deal with. But we're all broken pieces of pottery. We're people with problems, right? And we can't quit when things get hard within the church. That's the time for us to buckle down, actually. When things are rough and difficult and your feelings are, that's when we dig in, right? And that's when we hardly ever quit. All right, said I was going to be done. I'm almost done. I'm done, okay? Here's how you know I'm done. Great sermon, now what? Hopefully that's what you're thinking, right? Great message, now what? So there's a couple of things that I want you to do. As we consider our material this week, this idea of not quitting, never giving up, my encouragement to you as members of Christ's body, as members of the churches of Christ, is never quit. Don't quit meeting it. Don't give up on the church. There's value there, right? There's value there. As young people, don't quit the church. Don't do it. So I have many friends who are part of the church and quit, and they didn't come back, right? Their lives are in different places than where mine is now. Here's what I want you to keep with you. When you're working this week, because this is work and worship week, you're going to be given some very difficult tasks, right? I remember last year, one of the tasks was to clean out a cabin. As we were cleaning out the cabin, I saw mice. And they were swinging from the... they were just everywhere, right? We're seeing bats and animals, right? And it gets a little sticky around here when you clean it up and preparing for camp. It gets hard. And sometimes people get grumpy, right? Am I right about it? Look at your neighbor and say, don't be grumpy this week. Be grumpy this week. Okay, that's enough, Here's what I want you to keep with you. There are going to be some times this week where you're ready to quit, and you're going to be thinking to yourself, I don't know why I'm up here doing it. I could be lounging at the beach, chillaxing, hanging, but you're going to be out cutting grass, mowing, you're going to be cleaning up stuff, and you're, at one point or another, you're going to feel like doing what? You're going to feel like quitting, right? At one point, you're going to feel like quitting. I want you to keep a statement with you this week. When you feel like quitting, or if you see one of your friends or family members looking like they're about to quit, here's what I want you to keep with you. This statement. You ready? I'm too legit. Wait, let's try that one more time. Let's try that one more time. I'm too legit to quit. Okay, all right? So when you feel like throwing in the towel, you know what I want you to say in your head. I'm too legit to quit. And here's another one. Church is great because it's accountability, right? So if you see your friend, your family member, or your neighbor looking like they're struggling, you're going to look at them and you're going to say, hey, you're too legit to quit. Just like that, okay? With the head nod and everything. You're too legit to quit, okay? So that's what I want you to practice this week as we go throughout the week, okay? I know tonight is a difficult night. Everybody's tired. We were swimming and doing all kind of stuff. But that's what I want you to keep with you this week, okay? I'm too legit to quit. All right. If you keep that with you, I think you'll be blessed this week as we go all throughout the day. All right? Don't quit. Never quit.